All right. And hello, everybody, and welcome again to another episode of the Jazziz Daily Brunch. Sorry, we are running a little bit late. There's a traffic jam coming from, the living room to my office. So we're up, we're running, everything's going swimmingly now. Anyway, hey, it is a wonderful Wednesday morning, April 29th. Duke Ellington's birthday, by the way, so don't forget that. And I am very excited to be talking to our special guest today. His name is Rudresh Mahanthappa. And not only is he an incredibly talented alto saxophonist, making truly some of the most original jazz out there at the moment, but he's also the director of jazz at Princeton University. And he is turning that program into something really special. He is, in my opinion, an authority on Charlie Yardbird Parker. And in 2015, he released probably my favorite disc of the year, which was Bird Calls. And what it did was he took little snippets, little pieces of DNA from Charlie Parker tunes and used them to create these mind-blowing original compositions. It was a great disc, and we're actually going to be listening to a little bit of it here on today's show. He has a new album coming out in June called Hero Trio, that includes tributes to his heroes, so Bird, of course, John Coltrane, but also Stevie Wonder, Johnny Cash, Ornette Coleman, and the late Lee Konitz, among many others. Rudresh was a Guggenheim Fellow in 2007, and he also happens to be a whiz in the kitchen. We're going to be talking to him about all that stuff and more in a minute, but first, I'd like to thank some of this episode's sponsors. They include Concord Jazz, and of course, the big news for them is they've released Ella 100 live at the Apollo. This new album is out right now. It was recorded live in Harlem at the Apollo in 2016, and tribute to Ella Fitzgerald, the First Lady of Song. It included some amazing performances by Andra Day, Ledisi, Liz Wright, Cassandra Wilson, Monica Mancini, and so many more. And it was hosted by Grammy Award winner Patty Austin and Tony Award nominated actor and singer David Alan Grier. We actually had the producer of this album, Greg Field, on the show a little while back. He had an incredible story about the first time he got to play with Ella and the first time he got to play with Count Basie. He was literally just in the audience, and it was a drummer showed up late, and it was a, hey, is there a drummer in the house situation? Greg raised his hand and showed up for the task. Let's just say that. To find out more, visit concord.com. That's where you can find out more. Let's see. We are also brought to you by Blue Sound. Blue Sound is an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. All you do is you choose your music, your favorite music. I'll throw on Bird Calls later from your streaming service. Link it up with the free Blue OS app via your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer. That hooks up to your portable speaker, and that's it, folks. Getting the kind of crisp and detailed sound that only an audiophile-grade system can deliver has never been easier. You can learn more at bluesound.com or on our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Blue Sound buyer's guide. Speaking of jazziz.com, look what just came in the mail literally yesterday. My very handy Jazziz mug. Feels good in the hand. It's got a nice handle on it. You guys know, you see me, I drink a lot of coffee, a lot of tea on this program. I've become something of a mug aficionado. This one just feels good, man. So check it out, jazziz.com/store. Just click the store link on our homepage. Anyway, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce today's guest and a friend of mine. Please welcome to the show, Rudresh Mahanthappa.
Hey, nice to be here. Great to see you. It's been a while.
That's right. Good to see you too. I think we first met at the Litchfield Jazz Festival a while back, or
right.
Something like that. We've been just talking ever since. I love what you're doing at Princeton. You're running an amazing program up there, and so yes, it's good to be chatting.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words.
You have how you holding up, man? From what I understand, you've been cooking up a storm.
I was there for a while. I gotta say, I kind of burnt out, to tell you the truth.
You had a night, Jeff. Can you pull up that Instagram feed? You are good, man.
I was rolling there for a while. It was, I probably should have been practicing, but it seemed more interesting to try to cook, and especially to try to cook stuff that I'd been meaning to make or didn't know how to make, and try to learn some new techniques, use some new devices.
Well, I was going to say, did you get into any of the, food trends, the coffee, the fluffy coffee, or the 3-ingredient bread, or the...
That's so funny. I made the fluffy coffee.
You did?
2 nights ago, yeah. And I made it It was really good. I made it so strong though that I could not fall asleep until 3 a.m. though. I put in too much but that actually really works, and it does taste like a South Asian coffee concoction. It's
nice.
Southeast Asian. Yeah, right. Yeah.
My daughter and I tried to make challah bread for dinner, and then of course for French toast the next morning. Only we did it without yeast, so it turned out to be a very pretty braided doorstop. But we ate it anyway, man. That's glad to hear. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. It's good to see you, man. I mentioned to you backstage. Oh, here we go. Now Jeff's got it. Look what Rudresh has going on, man.
Well, the chicken wings were kind of a joke because that was a reference to an original Star Trek episode. But these banana muffins turned out really nice.
Nice.
This is an egg curry over here. You see the Easter eggs, and then you see what they became. Here's some flourless chocolate cookies that were unbelievable. A few different things there.
Cool,
like I said, I was going strong early on. There's me doing a concert for some Easter marshmallow peeps there. This
is great, man. Is that homemade Chef Boyardee?
Oh, that's so funny. That was what I really burnt out. I found there's a Mario Brothers Chef Boyardee.
Nice.
Yeah, so my son loved that.
Very cool, man. Well, hey, and this is a great Instagram page just to follow along everything Rudresh has going on. Very cool, man. Like I say, I'm glad to hear you're doing. I'm really glad you're doing well. It's excellent to hear that. Rudresh, I don't know if you could see our spring 2020 issue is all about Charlie Parker.
Yes, absolutely.
Centennial anniversary. 2020 marks his 100th anniversary. All that content is still available on our website if people want to go check it out. But as I mentioned up front at the top of the show, you put out in 2015 what had to be, I think, my favorite album of the year.
No, that's very kind of you.
Bird Calls. And I tried to do it some justice and talking about, what it was and how you approach Charlie Parker's music. But if you wouldn't mind, can you kind of just, give your premise or your description of what this album was and where the idea came from? And then hopefully we can listen to a little bit.
Yeah, the idea actually started many, many years ago where, I was working with a student on Donnelly, just on the head to Donnelly. And we were taking little bits of it, in isolation. And so interesting to hear part of it out of context, starting in kind of an unorthodox place and an unorthodox place, more just trying to get the saxophone technique together. And it really just sounded incredibly modern, like out of context. Like it sounded like something that, that Schoenberg might write or, some, really, really, and rhythmically, it just sounded incredibly advanced. And I think there's a tendency to kind of take Charlie Parker's, or not take it for granted, but we've heard so much of it that it's kind of enough to say it's innovative. He's a genius, but to reinvestigate that so much later, I think is really worthwhile. So my idea was to just take snippets of things that he either wrote as a composer or played as an improviser and try to expand on those little kind of nuggets and make entire tunes out of them. And, it was really just an experiment. I didn't really think, I didn't think the album was going to do so well. Like that had never occurred to me. It wasn't like I was trying to channel Bird from for marketing reasons or something like that. I mean, I would say that Bird and Grover Washington and Michael Brecker were like the three reasons I wanted to play the saxophone. So any way I can acknowledge them, I'm happy to do so.
Well, I think it spoke to people on a lot of levels. Number one, it tapped into, like you were saying, that love for Bird. And number two, this was my takeaway. The musicianship on this album was just like mind-blowing. Everyone you put together in this ensemble, especially in the front line, you and the young treble player Adam O for real, the technique was so innovative. You guys were playing stuff where it felt like it had never been played before, like you were breaking new ground. And I think that tapped a little bit into the ethos of Charlie Parker and that whole bebop movement. So really a stellar project. Is it all right if we were able to listen to a little bit of the track? One of my favorites was On the DL from this album.
Sure. Yeah. I can.
Which was the inspiration was Donnelly on the DL, Donnelly, and I wonder if we could just play the intro because the energy is just so great, and then I want people to kind of listen for that Donnelly snippet, that little piece of DNA that comes in, and see if they can identify it.
All right, I'm going to play it on my speakers here.
Cool. Yeah, man. All right, dig it. I hope people heard. All right, we can wrap it there, Rudresh. But that was awesome. I love the energy of that thing, and it's it's got this rock vibe, almost this fusion vibe. It's got the bebop in there, and you're just kind of taken up in this whirlwind. Where am I? And then you hear that
Yeah.
and it's so cool how that fits the piece, man. I have heard you going back to what you said earlier. You have spoken with great insight into Charlie Parker's music, and especially this notion that we so quickly regard him as genius, which he was, and we listen to his music so often that we often fail to listen deep enough, and really examine why he was a genius,
Right.
and what he was doing that was genius. So I'll ask you now, if you were to drop the needle on a Charlie Parker record, what are you hearing that sounds revolutionary, that sounds so groundbreaking?
I think rhythm is a big one. I think the rhythmic variety in what he plays, and the way he never starts a phrase in the same place. I think if you listen to even a lot of the great jazz musicians, the great improvisers, they tend to start their phrase in similar parts of the measure and end in similar parts of the measure. But Charlie Parker, I mean, he very much played as if he was speaking,
Mm-hmm.
like there's like this real flow that just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of seamless, but it's conversational and it also has a lot of humor to it, I mean, I think that's why his playing just speaks to a lot of people, because it really feels like, I hate that cliche, well, you have to tell a story, but it feels like somebody talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
or telling you a joke, there's a lot of joy in it as well. And then, obviously, melodically, harmonically, he was far ahead of the game. But I still think that, there's almost a sense that because it happened so long ago that it's obsolete or something, or that we've moved on. But, I don't think we've really moved on. I mean, I think we've just kind of, I always say, like, if Charlie Parker is 12 noon, we're at like 12:03. You know what I mean? It's not really like,
yeah, we're not that far off.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it's still, and what he played is still timeless. It's not like anyone's playing better than that or anyone's doing anything more innovative than that.
Right.
It's the shape of it has changed.
Right. You're right. I mean, every jazz musician, every modern jazz musician, obviously owes a debt of gratitude to Charlie Parker, and is in some way influenced by Charlie Parker. I think saxophonists to maybe a degree more, and alto saxophonists maybe to a degree more. I've always had my own personal what if. Remember those Marvel comic what if issues?
Oh yeah.
Charlie Parker on occasion did play tenor saxophone. Very rare, but as Charlie Chan, because of some record label contractual agreements, he appeared on tenor saxophone. And Jeff, do you have that picture of him playing with Lionel Hampton tenor saxophone, if we could pull that up? He also played on Miles Davis album Collector's Items as a tenor saxophonist. And
yeah, I think he plays on Milestones on that, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
The old Milestones. Yeah.
Right. And sounds good. Sounds like Charlie Parker. But I'm wondering, because alto saxophone is your primary instrument, was there something about the alto, that timbre, that style, the vocabulary that you have on alto, that made him a voice for the generation and a voice for bebop? I think it was specific to that instrument.
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it transcends the instrument. I mean, I don't know. If he had played tenor instead of alto, would have he had the same impact? I don't know. It's really hard to say. But I will say that, I think people gravitate towards instruments because, for kind of physical reasons or not only how it fits with your body, how it just kind of resonates with,
Right.
the sound of your voice, the range of your voice, it's so I think, I mean, they're very limited recordings of Charlie Parker playing tenor, but it's clear that when he plays alto, there is this, there's a connection. Like you don't feel the instrument, you just feel music coming out, and the instrument he's playing is secondary. And maybe, we're influenced by having heard him on alto a bunch, and then you hear a track of tenor and say, oh, well, it doesn't sound natural. But I mean, maybe it would if he played it more. I don't know.
Maybe again, that's like I'm saying, it's my own what if, my own Marvel what if. So thanks for indulging it.
And people say the same thing about Coltrane playing alto, right? There are a few recordings of him playing alto, so people, make all sorts of conjectures about that as well. But
Right. Very cool, man. Part of what is so refreshing about your interpretation of Charlie Parker's music is obviously you're bringing your own musical background into it, with Carnatic music, and South Asian music, and for us with, open-eared listeners, this was just so exciting, to hear your take on it. I'm wondering though, if you faced any challenges in, entering jazz, as an Indian American, and people going, I don't really know what to do with this genre.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would say, I grew up in the 80s. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. I would listen to, top 40 radio. I still like listening to Twisted Sister and Iron Maiden and Huey Lewis. And, and I didn't grow up with like a ton of Indian music at home. I kind of came into it later in early adulthood. So what was problematic for me was, people projected that I had like some, kind of innate knowledge of Indian music. So I had to immediately be some sort of expert, where it was, it wasn't alien to me, but it certainly wasn't natural to me. Right. And then from a business point of view, and then also along with that, people wanted to project Indianness on me. Like, oh, I really hear the Indian influence in what you do. I'm just like, really? We're playing bird tunes. Like, we're playing all the things you are. I don't know. And so there was that. And then from a, marketing point of view, I think, there was no template for an Indian American jazz musician really. So, it was just easier to be exoticized, so it took a while to kind of forge that path and dissuade some of those stereotypes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't easy.
No, and I hear you, and that's why I say the music is so original. It's everything about you. I hear Iron Maiden when I hear that on the DL. This thing rocks, man, and I truly hear all those influences. So that's what I'm saying. As Parker tributes go, this one really is at the top for me because it's just so personal. It's just so personal,
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And I am happy to talk about the new album as well. Real quickly, I want to thank a few other sponsors. Before we get into that, those being Mac Avenue Records. That label has been showing us the road to great music for 20 years now. And they've got 2 albums by some very fine pianists coming out on the horizon. First is Connie Hahn's Iron Starlet, which is due out June 12th. The other is Christian Sand's Be Water, which will be available July 17th. They're also in the midst of a wonderful Errol Garner reissue series that reissues one Errol Garner album per month until 2021. And they've also got a new Oscar Peterson tribute album out right now called Oscar with Love. They've got a very nice 5 LP deluxe edition. I've checked it out. Looks great. You can find out more at macavenue.com. And thanks also to Smoke Sessions Records, really great straight ahead jazz label based out of Manhattan. They got a new album out right now by Wayne Escoffrey called The Humble Warrior, and it is fantastic. It's Randy Brecker on it, Ugano Okegwu, Ralph Peterson on drums. It's a really nice record. And they've also got a recording of a concert put on by Harold Mayburn, this incredible Memphis-style jazz pianist, playing all of his own compositions called Mayburn Plays Mayburn, and that will be out. That is out now. It was recorded in 2019, and you can learn more about it at smokesessionsrecords.com. All right, Rudresh, hey man, the new album is a hero trio. We spoke about some of those influences, and you kind of tap into all of them there. So Bird is on here, interpretations of Bird, interpretations of John Coltrane, but also Stevie Wonder. Jeff, are you able to pull up? Let's start with the promo picture, because I love this, man. Whose idea was this, brother? All of you decked out. First of all, let's walk through the personnel. It's you on alto saxophone,
Francois Moutin on acoustic bass, and Rudy Royston on drums.
Yep. So it is a trio, obviously, but it's a cordless one. Important to remember.
Yeah, I've been wanting to make a cordless trio record for forever, and it was actually my favorite format. When I was in college and when I was younger, and I just never got around to it. So 16 albums later, I finally got to it.
What does it allow you to do? That being in a quartet with a piano doesn't.
Well, I mean, I think there's, everyone talks about the level of freedom, but I also think that, especially with the right people, there's a textural palette that you can access when there are no chords, and that's not always about. There we are. It's not always about the sparseness of it either. I mean, when you have somebody like Francois playing bass, I mean, he's playing chords in a certain sort of way, and Rudy is allowed to. Both of them are allowed to fill the space that's quote unquote left vacant by the pianist. So I just think it allows for a whole other sonic experience. On top of that, everyone talks about the harmonic freedom. Yeah, there's that, but there's a lot more than that.
I mean, it's a really nice format for you, and I think you and I have talked about some of your influences in this regard. Sonny Rollins being a big one.
Sure.
At the Village Vanguard, and yeah, it's a really nice album. Not to mention this promo picture, man. Digging those tights. Does that mean you all had to go out and buy tights?
Well, I went out and bought them for the band. Yeah, definitely.
It's a great look.
Took a lot of research to get this together.
I like it, man. It looks like Rudy's been working out. That's quite a six-pack.
Exactly.
Cool. And I understand, Rudresh, you have queued up some music for us to hear, and I would love to dip into that as well.
Yeah, let me just play you the first track. This is an arrangement of Charlie Parker's Red Cross that kind of, I don't know, it's different from the stuff on Bird Calls, but it takes advantage of these kind of different, I don't know, kind of territories that I think Charlie Parker sets up with the melody. We can listen to a little bit. Oops. Hold on. Sorry, technical difficulty.
man. Very nice stuff. We're going to have to, I wish we could listen to that all day, but you've got such a great tone, Rudresh.
Oh, thank you.
And a tune like this is really a display of the broad spectrum of that tone, because it can be full throated, and at the same time you get really nice and whispery up in the upper register. And you mentioned, sometimes the instrument is just a perfect voice, a perfect match for someone's voice, for someone's body. That's you, man. And the alto. And yeah, you can just you hear this is the sound of someone who adores Bird and Michael Brecker and Iron Maiden and a little bit of everything, and it comes through for sure, man. I want to talk about where you had another song queued up for, and we'll maybe just take another listen to, because I'd love to hear someone outside the jazz canon. You mentioned Stevie Wonder was a big influence on you.
Oh yeah, sure. So this was actually Daniela Perez and I did some duo playing together, and he brought in this arrangement of Stevie Wonder "Overjoyed" that I really liked. And the interesting thing, again, we were talking about the trio format is, it's this pretty complex reharmonization that's very pianistic, and
Yeah.
to sort of play it with the trio makes it even more interesting, because again, Francois has this way of, he can kind of fill up all that space. He can make very dense harmonic sounds come out of the bass, which I think is very unique. So let me just find this in the right place. Here we go.
Yeah, man. We'll have to wind it down there as well. But, it's the elasticity of this group is so impressive, because harmonically, what I heard in the first two, Red Cross, it was dense, man. It was like a fireball, like a meteor, compact. And here, you mentioned, harmonically, Francois really kind of fills in the spaces, but this one felt nice and light, buoyant, it just kind of floated, man. And I think that speaks a lot.
These guys just, they're just able to do so much. I mean, I credit them, I mean, Rudy's, he plays with me, and then he turns around and plays like super quiet stuff with Bill Frisell, and then,
right.
And then he works with singers, and he does all this stuff. And, so he's able to just bring this wide spectrum to any situation. And I feel like, especially in the things that we set up together, he's able to kind of exploit that whole breadth of expression. And I think the same with Francois. I mean, these guys just, sometimes I'm jealous of these sidemen. They just, they really get to dive into lots of different things that leaders don't necessarily get to, and then they get to kind of graft that experience onto other situations. It's pretty amazing.
That's true. That's a good point. And let's remind everybody, the album is Hero Trio. It's due out June 12th.
June 19th.
June 19th. I'm sorry. And that's a Whirlwind recording, right? That's exactly the label?
Yes. That's nice. A really great label based in London that I think's been doing some really great stuff, the last few years. They've done some of Reza Bassi's albums, some of Walter Smith III's albums. So it's really great energy, young guys.
Very nice, man. So it's a good fit for you. Are you working on anything else or planning it that we can look forward to?
Yeah, not so much album-wise. I'm working with a really great visual artist named Eric Dyer, who is kind of a sort of animator who he works in kind of a modern version of Zoetrope. Zoetrope, you might remember, is kind of the earliest version of film. It's like where you look through the cylinder with the
slot.
Yeah.
Oh,
so cool. He's kind of working with something kind of like that. If anyone wants to Google him, he's some great video on YouTube. But I saw his work, I don't know, like 8 or 9 years ago, and I was really blown away. So it's taken a long time to mobilize, but he and I and the great rapper Prism High Priest, we're working on a performance piece, it would be like kind of a live show. So hopefully that'll go up probably a year from now at this rate, but we're working on that. And then Terry Lynn Carrington and I were supposed to be out on the road with our Charlie Parker Centennial project. So that we still have not played a gig, unfortunately, but we were ready to go.
Well, that is a shame because I would have loved to have seen what you could do with that. I know there were some talks about taking it online, but we'll see where that goes. And the Centennial Festival too, the Charlie Parker Festival in the park was canceled this year, which was
has that officially been canceled?
That's what I heard. Are they thinking they may do it? Go through with it?
I don't know. I think everyone's kind of hedging a little bit. I think because announcing cancellations is so heartbreaking. You froze. Are you still with me?
There we go. There we're back. Yes.
Okay.
It looks like it's a good place to wrap anyway because our streams apparently are tired. Our Wi-Fi is giving out on us. But Rudresh, if people want to follow along with you and check in on your Instagram recipes, buy music, how can they do so? Where's the best place to follow along all things Rudresh?
So my website is rudreshm.com, and then Twitter and Facebook and pretty much everything except for Instagram is just Rudresh M, RUDRESHM. Unfortunately for Instagram, someone had taken that. I'm trying to figure out who. So it's Rudresh KM on Instagram. But yeah, definitely feel free to reach out. The new album is on pre-order on Bandcamp, and the track that's streaming up there right now is actually our take on Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire, which I think people will dig. I certainly dug it.
Very cool, man. Yeah, go pre-order the new album. Go buy Bird Calls. Buy the real thing. Now's the time. Buy the CD. Buy the physical, and just go listen to it because it's like I say, it's one of my favorite albums. It certainly was the year it dropped, and from one of my favorite alto saxophonists of the moment. So,
thank you so much.
Rudresh, thank you so much for joining me on the brunch. Cheers to you, sir. I will see you backstage, and I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody at home.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. You're very welcome. Take care, Rudresh.
Bye.
All right. I hope you dug that as much as I did. Bird Calls. It was released in 2015. Go stream it. It's excellent. And go check out all of our Charlie Parker content from the spring 2020 issue on our website, jazziz.com. We've got interviews with some of today's top saxophonists about Bird's influence. We do a deep dive into his discography. We've got some quotes, some rare quotes from Bird and others about Bird that we were able to dig up. It's all available at jazziz.com to digital subscribers. Right now, we're offering a very special subscription offer where if you enroll for a digital all access subscription, you will receive it for 99 cents per month for 3 months. And we will enroll you to receive our next print issue, which is our summer 2020 issue coming out in June, all about jazz fusion. Chick Corea is the cover story. We have a wide-ranging interview with Chick about the heyday of fusion. There's our special offer, digital all access plus print. Normally it's 1 year for $39.95, but if you sign up right now, get 3 months for 99 cents and that complimentary issue. Also, independent artists, if you're out there, if you're listening, if you know independent artists, check out our program Inside Track. People ask me all the time, Brian, I just recorded an album. It's self-produced. How can I get it reviewed? How can I get it in front of you? This is the way. Go to jazziz.com/inside track or Jazziz and click submit your music. You just submit everything about your album, your band name, personnel, the track listing. You can give us an album cover, link to Bandcamp, SoundCloud, whatever you want. It comes directly to me. It comes directly to our European editor. It comes to everybody. And we listen to everything. We promise you could wind up with a Song of the Day post. You could wind up in a weekly Discover playlist. You could wind up on this very podcast. Who knows? Anyway, check that out, Inside Track. Everyone at home, I thank you so much for listening. Healthcare workers, first responders, truck drivers, grocery store workers. If you're out there, thank you sincerely from the bottom of our house for everything you do. Artists, musicians, creative people, remember, you are essential too. Everybody's essential in my book. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Jazziz Daily Brunch. Bye, everybody.